Good morning! Hello!
Well, good morning, everyone. As we start this really special service, as we welcome some really special guests today, in remembrance of something that we mark this week, Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Observance Day, which is a major observance in Israel. So I'm glad that we're marking this today. And we wanted to start off with some words by Mr. Stephen Konigsberg, Michelle's father, and then a song in Yiddish to follow. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Michelle will be singing for you a very important Yiddish song written by a young Jewish man named Hirsch Glick, who was born in 1922 in Vilna, Lithuania, and at 21 composed this song. He came from a people who had a strong tradition in music and literature. And had he lived, he would have been a contemporary of Bob Dylan, another important Jewish poet and songwriter. At 21, Dylan wrote Blowing in the Wind and has written over 600 songs. On April 19, 1943, the Nazis sent in a large force to finish off the liquidation of the Warsaw Ghetto. The relatively small group of survivors that remained started a revolt and held off the Nazis for nearly a month. The song by Glick, Zuck nicht kein Mal, in English it's translated as the Song of the Partisans, is dedicated to this fighting spirit. Unfortunately, Glick was sent to several work camps near Vilna. In 1944, he was sent to a concentration camp in Estonia. He escaped, became a partisan, and died fighting the Nazis at 22. In addition to this terrible tragedy, the world lost many songs of a gifted writer. I'm reminded of Anne Frank, who also was a gifted and aspiring writer, and the millions of other children murdered by the Nazis before they had a chance to fulfill their own dreams. Thank you.
Sag nicht kein Mal, als du gehst den letzten Weg. Chotsch niemlen bleien, verstehen bleie Tag. Kommen weg noch unser ausgebänkte Show. Zwetter Poikten unser Trott, mir seinen do. Kommen weg noch unser ausgebänkte Show. Zwetter Poikten unser Trott, mir seinen do. You must not say that you now walk the final way, because the darkened heavens hide the blue of day. The time we've longed for will at last draw near, and our steps as drums will sound that we are here. The time we've longed for will at last draw near, and our steps as drums will sound that we are here. From land all green with palms to lands all white with snow, we now arrive with all our pain and all our woe, where our blood sprayed out and came to touch the land. There our courage and our faith will rise and stand, where our blood sprayed out and came to touch the land. There our courage and our faith will rise and stand. Sag nicht kein Mal, als du gehst den letzten Weg. Chotchim len baien verstehen bleie Tag. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebenkte Show. Svetta poikten unser Trott mir seinen Do. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebenkte Show. Svetta poikten unser Trott mir seinen Do.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Michelle. Beautiful. Will you join me in our call to worship as we open up our service here today? Let us invoke the God who inhabits our world and indwells our lives.
We need not look out to find God. We need only look around, within ourselves, beyond ourselves, into the eyes of another.
We need not listen for distant thunder to find God. We need only to listen to the music of life, words of children, the questions of the curious, the rhythm of the heartbeat, the joy in lifting up sisters and brothers.
Together, let us invoke the breath of God, who inhabits our world and indwells our lives, and for his gift and presence that never farther than the beat of our own hearts.
Let us say thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, why don't we rise up in body or spirit and sing a song we just need to sing in this day and age. I think we can all answer the call of this song to go wherever the injustice takes us. In this day and age, we need a lot of answers to head into the injustice in the world. This is a perfect song to inspire us. It is Here I Am, Lord. Be seated. Here we are, O God, willing to go wherever we feel called to make this world a more just and beautiful and loving and wonderful place. Here I am, Lord. Use us to make the world a better place. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Faith United Church of Christ on this first Sunday after Easter. Well, we're supposed to have a small, didn't you all get the memo? This is the Sunday after Easter, the least attended church service of the year in almost every church but Faith United Church of Christ, apparently, It's like we have a really special speaker or something today, I tell you. You didn't come to hear me, I know that. You got enough of me before Easter, so. Welcome. You said it, yeah, I said it. Well, they call it Holy Week. Holy is long, Holy Week, Holy Week, that's what we say. Welcome to any visitors we have with us today. First-time visitors, return visitors, the voices of children. We love it here at Faith UCC. And a special welcome to first-time visitors especially, but returns as well. We're just delighted to have you. And if you're online with us, a special welcome to you as well, to our online community. If you're here in person with us, go ahead and sign our friendship book, which we keep on the table in the gathering space out there, so we can keep you apprised of all the happenings that we have going on. And we got a lot. You think it quiets down after Easter? Oh no, we got a lot going on, and you're going to want to know what's going on here. And if you're online with us, just send a note to our office at Faith UCC, and we will get you on that same newsletter list. I want to just say a really special welcome today. Wednesday is Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, as I said beforehand, and we thought we really want to honor this week. It's tomorrow night into Tuesday. We want to do something special here, and someone has suggested that they have a relationship with Tony Rindy. And Tony has agreed. She's like, I'll come talk to this wild congregation, So Tony's going to tell you more about her story. But Tony, I want to welcome you to Faith UCC. We're happy to have you here. Can we please give Tony a round of applause for coming out with us today? Tony's on the board of about every organization in Florida, as I read in your bio. Barbara will say more, but especially the Florida Holocaust Museum, one of the most important museums in Florida, hands down. And many of you know, I'll say more at the end, but we're going to be going to visit there, so this is a little bit of a plug on the 30th, but we need you to sign up if you want to go. But just know Tony's work has been instrumental in really helping grow the word about what's being taught and remembered at the Holocaust Museum. It's one of the most important museums in St. Pete. So let's just say thank you, Tony, for your work in helping us all remember something that should never, ever happen again. And in this climate, we need that Florida Holocaust Museum as strong as ever. So thank you for your work, and I can't wait for you to share some of your story with us today. And you're going to stick around for a bit of a Q&A after the service, right? We have a phenomenal hospitality provided by our Anam Cara folks today. Some excellent foods out there, some excellent Jewish foods I hear. Did I hear knishes and things like that out there? Oh my God. I'm so out there after that. I'm going to beat all of you. It's the only day we'll do a greeting line so I can get closer to the hospitality. So I hope you'll grab some hospitality and then come back in and we'll do a bit of a Q&A with Tony. And she's agreed to answer. You said no questions are off. Just please share your questions and thumbs up from Tony on that. So what a really special day that it is here. I do want to say a word before we jump over further into our service. Let me get over to this image called The Incredulity of Thomas by the great artist Caravaggio. Now, most churches, almost every single one of them today, is preaching a text that has done more damage. It's lectionary for today. Has done more damage to our Jewish sisters and brothers stemming from Christianity than really any other text has done. And it's from the Gospel of John. And again, it's lectionary today. So it will be read in probably 90% of Christian churches, especially that follow the lectionary, which most do, that 3-year cycle of readings. And this is how that text starts, that will be explained today or read today without any context whatsoever. from John 20, 19 through 31. I'm just going to read the first, John 19. When it was evening on that day, the first day of the week, and the doors of the house where the disciples had met were locked for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." That line that's read today with no context whatsoever, in fear of the Jews, is the reason that we're doing services to honor and mark Yom HaShoah, for the purpose that it never happens again. And this is one of those days where I don't know if any of my colleagues out there are going to see this, but come on, colleagues. When you preach texts like this, please take people into the context of what that means. Whether it be in John, as we heard in Holy Week, all these people heard in Holy Week, the Jews said, "Crucify him." The Jews said, "Crucify him." That's what everybody hears. And you know what they remember? The Jews said, "Crucify him." I had a good friend named Mitch, who's Jewish, and a good dear friend of mine from Minneapolis, just talking to me the other day. I said, "I'm going to tell your story." He goes, I said, "You should watch." He said, "Nah." But Mitch, when I first met Mitch, funny, I met him at a Starbucks. You all get that kind of enjoyment on that one, yeah. He told me when he found out what I did, I was a pastor. He said, "Mike," he said, "the memories I have of Easter and Holy Week were running home as a kid, being chased by other kids, and they're yelling at him, 'Christ killer, Christ killer, God killer,' and they would chase him, and they'd beat him up, and he'd run home," he said, crying to his mom, and the first time it happened, he said, they're calling me God killer. What does that mean?" And his mom had to take him into the story of Holy Week, and that, must be Holy Week, where people are hearing these awful things about the Jews and what the Jews did to those Christians that didn't actually exist at the time. Took people into the context, you'd understand that Jesus was Jewish. All the disciples were Jewish. So those hiding in an upper room in the Gospel of John were all Jewish. And if you watch, I don't know, have you anybody watching The Chosen? Is anybody watching that? I just finished season 2 last night, and I go into, it's about Jesus, the Jesus story. I go into these stories just wanting to I can't wait to tear it apart. That's why I go into them. Like, I'm going to shred this thing, you know. I know it's going to be awful. I really enjoy this. And the reason is because it really keeps Jesus within his Judaism, the context. But it's starting to turn. I just finished season 2 last night. And when the Romans start being friendly to the Jewish people, you got a problem. And that's what's starting to happen. I'm going to keep watching it, but just when you watch that stuff, as entertaining as it can be, or when you read our Gospels, you got to just keep in mind the context of those times and the damage that can happen when we take something that is so ancient and a story from so long ago, written in a particular context, and we lift it into a Christian circle, especially in terms of the Gospels. We just need to be really careful. So, to all my colleagues out there that are interpreting text, please be responsible and do the right thing so that we don't have to ever repeat the Shoah, repeat the Holocaust. We don't have this anymore. And if you're really wondering, Christianity has its scoundrels. I mean, Martin Luther was no choir boy. Martin Luther was as anti-Semitic as they come and responsible for the deaths of so many Jewish sisters and brothers. So we just need to be really careful when it comes to religion and how we're interpreting things, because really bad things can happen. I want to recommend a couple of books. Obviously, Elie Wiesel's Night. If you haven't read Elie Wiesel's Night, please read that. Everybody should read that. It's a book that should be on everybody's bookshelf. And another one is called The Last Consolation Vanished by a Jewish Polish prisoner at Auschwitz, Zelem Gradowski. And that was written while he was in Auschwitz and found later, as far as I understand it, the translation of it. And it's just gut-wrenching, absolutely gut-wrenching. So when you hear people like Glenn Beck the other night get on a radio show and say that, well, there were good Nazis. They didn't all kill Jewish people. He said it the other night, It was the doctors. You blame the doctors. Those were the really bad Nazis. Don't buy that stuff. That's why I included that hymn, Here I Am, Lord, so we can speak up and fight against that with all that we can and keep building bridges between our faiths, knowing that they're all expressions of something that we all long for, and that's just that love and beauty of God in our lives. And we just need to be really respectful. So I got to get that off my mind. I may use this text next week and think about this more this week and do a sermon on, did I just hear crickets? I just heard crickets. That was like well-timed comedy right there. I may do a sermon on this week, so sit tight with that. But Tony, that's why we want you here today. We want to start breaking down the walls of anti-Semitism, especially, that's going on right now in our culture, which is just scary. Jews will not replace us. That was uttered in Charlottesville and chanted by white men with torches, marching around. That was just a couple of years ago. The Florida Synagogue, the Florida Holocaust Museum was defaced. 2 years ago, with Nazi symbolism. So that's why we do what we do here. So we're delighted. It's my really long-winded way of saying, welcome, Tony. We're happy that you're here. Stay tuned for what could be a sermon next week. We'll see where it goes. Now I just want to center us for just a moment. And before we really jump into this service, we got some great music and sharing time from Tony, and then afterwards. It should be a really beautiful day. But let's just take a moment and invite you to close your eyes. Time has no meaning today. Put that away. There's versions of time. There's chronological time, which is the hours we measure our days by. That's Chronos time. But then there's a time called Kairos time, and it's holy time. It's time that is pregnant with meaning. So may this today be a time of Kairos time, of deep meaning for all of us. I invite you just to take a deep breath. Breathe in a sense of goodness and joy that is in this world. We just got to keep seeing it. Keep grasping for it. It's there. And let go when you breathe out of some of that anxiety that we carry. Yeah, I hear you. That sums it up, little one. Breathe in this present moment. And when you breathe out, remind yourself that it is a beautiful moment and a holy time. And now let's journey ever deeper into our worship service together with our choir in an anthem called I Believe.
I believe. 'Cause 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 I believe. 'C God.
centerpiece of daily Jewish morning and evening prayer services and is considered by some the most essential prayer in all of Judaism. The Shema prayer stands as an affirmation of monotheism and the singularity God in the life of the Jewish people. It is a beautiful expression of devotion to and trust in God. Hear these words from the Shema prayer, which come from the words of Moses in Deuteronomy. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Blessed is his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever and ever. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. These words that I command you today shall be upon your heart. Repeat them to your children and talk about them when you sit in your home and when you walk in the street, when you lie down and when you rise up. Hold fast to them as a sign upon your hand, and let them be as reminders before your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your home and at your gates.
I would like to introduce and welcome forward Reverend Barbara Turner Delisle to introduce Tony Rindy.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is my great honor to introduce our guest today, Tony Rindy, and welcome her to our pulpit. But before I do, I'd like to share a short story about how this came to be. It's one of those spiritual coincidence, synchronicity, divine timing kind of stories. And it centers around our member and co-leader of Anam Cara, Marge Miller. You see, the events of this month are all related to Marge's friendship with Tony, as well as her vision of building bridges between our church and others, in this case, with the Jewish faith and culture. There's a little divine comedy in this story, as well as divine timing. I had contacted Carl Van Eigen, the head of our social justice team, to see if there would be enough interest in the congregation for a virtual tour of Auschwitz, something I had heard about and was interested in. And I couldn't attend the meeting that this was discussed at. And so guess what? Guess who got elected, nominated, volunteered to lead the month of April? Yep, that's right. So the day I found out I was to head up this topic, and in an unrelated conversation with Marge, she mentioned how inspired she has been with Tony's strength and Tony's story. She said Tony is an amazing speaker and has presented to groups all over the world, all over the U.S., about her life and the horrors of the Holocaust and more. Marge was thinking of asking Mike if Tony could come and speak to our church. And I said, go no further. You're speaking to the one. And so worlds collided, the plan was hatched. Marge spoke with Tony, introduced she and I, and we were off to the races. Not only are we blessed to have Tony here today to share her story of surviving the Holocaust, but because of this holy alliance, we will be attending Shabbat service at Tony's synagogue, B'nai Israel, this coming Friday on April 21st. And once Tony told Rabbi Joshua of our interest, he suggested we come in an hour early at 6 instead of just at 7, so that he could sit with us and talk with us and answer our questions and share about the temple, take us into the Holy of Holies, share with us the Ark and the most sacred artifact in all Judaism, the Torah, which in this case is one that also survived the Holocaust and was owned by Tony's grandfather. Yeah, so this is pretty important. So, to round this all out, on April 30th, we will visit the Florida Holocaust Museum. Tony and her husband, John, who couldn't be with us today, we're going to add him to our prayers because he had a medical incident and couldn't be with us. And John is also a Holocaust survivor, and the two of them have served on the board of the Florida Holocaust Museum and had much creative input into its development. So now let me introduce Toni Rinde, a Holocaust survivor, a woman who has done much to bring awareness of the atrocities perpetuated against people of the Jewish faith and culture. I hope you have read our open door on April 6th and seen her a bio and a listing of all those boards that she has served on, all the ways that she has helped our people to learn about the Holocaust, to learn about these atrocities, and to help us understand what we have done and what we need to do. So, Toni, let me welcome you. We are so blessed to have you with us. Toni Rinde.
Good morning, everyone. So let me tell you, I got up this morning and washed my face, and I said, oh my gosh, I have to put makeup on because I have to look right in all these people. And I drove up here, and as I turned into the driveway, and your sign of shalom met my heart, my makeup fell apart. It's true. Anyway, I'm so delighted to be here to share just a little bit of my story with you this morning. I was born in Poland in a city called Przemyśl, a city that had 60,000 people in it, of which 20,000 were Jewish. War broke out in September 1939, and Przemyśl was divided, bisected at that point between Russia and Germany. And at that point, a Ribbentrop Pact was signed between Stalin and Hitler not to invade, to go by the lines that they had agreed on. Well, unfortunately, neither one of them were wonderful gentlemen. They sort of walked all over each other. And in a very short time, when the Russians were there, we were under Russian occupation, and when the Russians were there, we had relatively normal lives. It wasn't great. We were not starving. We were not being beaten, but we were living under a situation where you had to be careful. You had to, quote unquote, behave. You couldn't do anything that they suggested was not the right way to be. And things were okay until 1942 in June. Hitler invaded again, came through full force, and within no time established the ghetto in Przemyśl. The Jews of the city were herded into the ghetto very, very quickly. You packed one suitcase if you were lucky. If you weren't lucky, you just went, you just ran. We were put behind these walls within a number of blocks, 20,000 people within several blocks. Life living became impossible. Sanitation was awful. Health was totally ignored. Life was impossible because we had food shortages right away. You couldn't get that much food into an area for that many people. Luckily, as luck would have it, my father became in charge of the food distribution in the ghetto. And at the same time, he was given the position of teaching Schwamberger. He was the commander of the ghetto, how to ride horseback. Schwamberger was an animal, to say the least. Schwamberger would take my father for rides through the city and would see a woman holding a child. He would grab the child, throw the child up, and shoot. Okay? That was Schwamberger. Schwamberger was accused of war crimes and actually put to death in Germany many, many years after the Holocaust, of course. And my dad actually was supposed to go and speak on behalf of himself as directly knowing Schwamberger, but my mother wouldn't let him go. She said, "You're not going." So they taped my father, and that was used as evidence in the trial. So my dad was in charge of food distribution and teaching Schwamberger and his wife how to ride horses. You ask why. My father's family owned a large ranch in Poland, outside of Przemyśl, where they grew wheat and food stocks, and he rode horseback. So my dad was a phenomenal horseback rider, phenomenal horseman. And of course, he was teaching Schwamberger. Things got really bad, very, very quickly. My dad was befriended by a Lieutenant Alfred Battelle, who was in charge of the Wehrmacht, the army that was controlling the ghetto at that point. And my dad came to Battelle one day and said, "You must help me. We are now the next people that are doomed for execution for being taken to Auschwitz, and that would be the end of us." Battelle was a wonderful man. Battelle got 100 people out of the ghetto at night with trucks that he commandeered to go to pull those 100 Jews out. That is a historical fact. It is written in the books. 100 Jews were saved by Battelle. So at night, we were taken out of the ghetto, and my family and myself were put into the basement of the Wehrmacht. Other people were dispersed all throughout the city. We stayed in that basement for 4 days. And I have to tell you, Battelle came to the basement every single day with a tangerine for me. He said, "Children need fruit. We have to keep her alive." Okay? After the 4 days, the entire city that was hiding, all the Jewish people were put back on the trucks, brought back into the ghetto. My dad realized that things are not going to be getting better, but certainly worse, just because it was passed by the one time that we were going to be put on trains to Auschwitz. It's going to happen again, and down the road, they're going to get us. My dad, through his father, had tremendous connections in town. My grandfather was a very well-liked person, and there were an awful lot of people that would do many things to help us. We had a connection to a couple of the people that worked for my grandfather. They came at night with a horse and buggy, hay on the bottom, in this big wagon. One by one, my mother, my grandfather, who was with us there, myself, and later on my dad were taken out of the ghetto at night, brought to a local farm in town. Things weren't great because in those days, if you helped a Jew, you were killed. There was no discussion. You were shot, you were hanged, you were brutally tortured. Whatever needed to be done, it was taken care of. And not only that, but you were made a spectacle in the city. You were left hanging on a gallows for everyone else to see, that if you help a Jew, that's what's going to happen to you. Well, unfortunately, that farmer that helped us, that had us hidden in his barn for several weeks, was killed. He was hung in town. He was first beaten and then hung in town with his wife in the town square to again show people this is what happens to you if you help the Jews. We were hidden in between the barn and the basement in his house for about a month. Things got out in the public that this gentleman, this farmer, was helping Jews, and that's when they killed him. One of his co-workers that worked on the farm with him came to church one Sunday morning, and she got drunk and spread the word around, we have to get rid of him because he's got Jews living in his basement. Okay? So needless to say, the next day, what happened? So at night, we left this one barn, this one farmer, and went to another family. And again, this family helped us tremendously. They fed us. As a matter of fact, not that long ago, the Holocaust Museum found the young kid that was alive in those days, the son of the farmer. I called him to Poland, and he was a little older than I was, and he said to me he remembers his mother carrying me in her arms in order to try to feed me when things got really bad. But they killed the parents, again, because Jews were being hidden in their facility. I became very sick. I was probably 2 years old at that point, maybe 2.5, 2, closer to 2. And I became sick, and you can't hide with a child. A child lets themselves be known, right? Whether good or whether bad, you know when there's a child around. I became sick, and my parents had to make some very serious, heavy decisions. They made the decision to give me away. Through the Catholic Archdiocese, which Przemyśl was the seat, they found a wonderful lady who would take me and keep me as her niece. Okay? My name had to be changed. My birth certificate had to be changed. I had to learn catechism. I had to go to church every single day, and I prayed. And this wonderful lady said to me that if ever you were questioned by anyone and they ask about you, I was her niece, right? And where were your parents? Your parents were sent to another city to work for the German effort. Okay, well, tell that to 2.5-year-old little child, okay? You know, all they had to do was come and give me a candy. I will tell you whatever you want to know. And I will repeat it if you have any questions. So, I was not allowed to come into the main room of the house. I had to stay in my bedroom all the time, especially if someone came to the door. I was not allowed to be in the room. They were afraid. They were afraid because children talk, whether they want to or they don't. A person can get all the facts and information speaking to a child. Life was not easy for me. The only good thing is that I had a wonderful lady that took care of me. I addressed her as my aunt. Her name was Koniosna, and she was my aunt, Koniosna. My parents went back to where they were hiding, and after a while, they had to leave because, again, too much threat was happening to the family that was hiding them. My parents went to the woods and stayed in a partisan community for close to 2 years. The war was not easy. Do I remember? Yes, I do. when something traumatic happens to you, even though you may be 3 and 3.5 years old, there's memory there. Whether it's brought up every day of your life, no. But when things start coming back and you start having conversations, you remember. My mother always used to say, "How do you remember all these things? I can't believe that. I didn't remember, and you remember?" And I said, "Yes, I remember." And she was amazed at the fact that I was telling her what was going on. Long story short, I stayed with this wonderful lady for close to 3 years. She took care of me. She fed me to the best of her ability. Food was always a problem, but she was a wonderful lady. My parents had a very difficult time. They were in the woods. My grandfather, elderly gentleman, finally died. My father and my uncle buried him in the woods and marked the spot with a stick or stone or whatever in order to be able to find him, find his body after the war, when things were able to become sort of normal. And they did. They exhumed his body after the war, and they buried him in the Jewish cemetery in Poland. So things were not easy. Life was very difficult. Being a Jew was the worst thing you could be. You know, my dad was addressed by this Schwamberger, who he was teaching horseback riding. "You dirty Jew, you Jew pig." That's how he addressed him every single day. His wife, on the other hand, was a delightful lady and would bring my dad pieces of food that she was able to put into her pockets, into her jacket, wherever, and she would give him something to eat. Things settled down. The war was over. Very few people were alive. Przemyśl, with a population of 20,000 Jewish people before the war, probably had about 9 when we went back to our community. They were killed, they were slaughtered, they were murdered, they were burned. Any atrocity that you could possibly visualize is what happened. My parents came back to get me. Well, I looked at these 2 people, and who are you? I don't know you. I don't want to go to you. I don't want to have any part of you. I love my aunt. She's been taking care of me, and why are you taking me away? Why are you even making those noises? I won't go. It's not easy dealing with me, even at that age. So my parents hired this young girl that moved into an apartment with them, and hoping to entice me, because I was, at that point, 4.5, and a young girl was great. I mean, I had somebody that I could play with, right? Well, it didn't work that fast. It took 3 months for my parents to finally get me to go with them, and that wasn't easy either, because I said, "Well, yeah, okay, we'll go, I'll come stay with you." It didn't happen that fast. But finally, my parents put their foot down and said, "This is ridiculous, okay? We've got to get our lives together." We moved from Przemyśl to Katowice, which is another city northwest of Przemyśl. My dad became in charge of the Jewish community in order to help orphans that were created because of the Holocaust. He was writing false birth certificates to the land of Palestine for these children. The Polish people got wind of that, and there was a note put on our door: "If you do not leave within 24 hours, you and your family will be killed." This was after the war, after the Holocaust, okay? So anti-Semitism doesn't go away on a set date. It's here to stay, alive and well, as we all know right now. We went from Katowice, we went to Prague. My mother became very ill. She was hospitalized. The doctor that was taking care of her was a Jewish lady, and she was wonderful. Besides getting my mother back on her feet, she asked us to come live with her in her home, which we did. And that lasted for about 3 months, because we were waiting to see where a quota would open to come to the United States. So we moved into her house about 3.5 months, and my dad got wind that there's a quota opening in Paris. We left her home in Prague. We went to Paris. My dad reports to whoever you reported to in those days, and they said, oh, that line starts all the way back there, get in line. So by the time our number came up, it was closed, okay? So there we were in Paris. What do you do? A family, a child? Well, you try to find work, you try to find some semblance of reality. So we lived in Paris for about a year. I never went to school because my parents were always concerned about sending me to school. Sending me any place out of their reach was just not the thing to do. After Paris, we went to Holland, to Amsterdam, because again, we heard that a quota was opening. And yes, the quota opened. We came to this country. My uncle met us at the docks, and here we are. He was a man who was a physician that was caught right before the war started at a medical conference in New York. Telegraphed back to his parents, what should I do? And they said to him, do not come back. And that was the last time, of course, that he saw his parents. But the good thing is, he was very helpful to us. He helped us get settled. We had an apartment waiting for us. And then I started school, right? I was 7 years old at that point, no education, no language. I didn't read, I didn't write. What do we do? My dad was afraid to send me to a public school because he was concerned there would be no Jewish people there, and he was afraid to send me to someplace without Jews around. So I went to a day school, a Hebrew English school. I was 7. I was put into kindergarten. And kids, they can be very, very cruel, and you know what they were. I didn't look the same, my hair wasn't the same, I didn't dress the same, and worst of all, I didn't speak the language, and I didn't read and write. But it wasn't so bad. In that 1 year, I went from kindergarten to first grade to second grade. At the end of the year, I received an award as being the top Hebrew student in the school. Okay, so I learned English, I learned Hebrew, and it worked. My dad came here under an agricultural quota, which meant that he had to go settle, or we had to go settle on a farm, which is what we did. We moved from New York, we moved to Vineland, New Jersey, which is South Jersey, where a lot of the newcomers that came to this country moved to. I went to school there, made very good friends with a girl that lived not too far away from us. We were living in the country in a home that was a farmhouse. I made friends with this girl that didn't live too far away from me. We took the school bus together. I went to Decatur Avenue, which was the public school, and she went to a Catholic school right across the street. And everything was great and wonderful. And one day, we're walking to school where the school bus dropped us off, and she turns around to me and says, Jews, pew, they stink. Well, I didn't know what that meant. I had never had that kind of a situation occur. You see, I didn't know that I was a Jew and that I was supposed to have died in the Holocaust. I had no idea. My parents never said anything to me because why? Number one. Number two, how do you start explaining to a 7 or 8-year-old child that I am hated for what? For being Jewish? How do you explain that? How do you explain hate to a child? Before even saying religion, how do you explain hate? You don't explain hate because we hope nobody ever knows that word. But my dad said, okay, you're through with the public school. Now you're going back to a day school, a Hebrew English school again. We lived in Estelle Manor. My day school was in Atlantic City, okay? Probably about 40 miles from where we lived. So you hear these stories, oh yeah, I walked 20 miles in the snow and what have you. Well, let me tell you about my trips back and forth from school. My dad took me from our house to a town called Mays Landing. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the bus in Mays Landing came, a city bus, that took me 40 minutes to get to Atlantic City. I was dropped off at the bus station, and in Atlantic City, I took a little it was called a jitney, like a little car, little van that drove me to my school, the corner, of course, dropped me off, and I walked. So the entire process took 2 hours, in the morning and in the evening. No snow, I don't think, but 2 hours. In the summertime or spring, where days were longer, that was not a problem. But in the wintertime, when it gets dark at 5 o'clock, and I wouldn't get back home from school to the point where my dad was picking me up was until 6. What do? It's dark. I was scared. But you know what? My dad told me, you have to stand at this one corner and I will be there. Well, that's all great. However, there's traffic and things happen, and my dad wasn't always there. He couldn't make it on time. So I stood at the corner. But anyway, things were okay. Things were all right. I went from the day school again in Atlantic City. I said to my dad, I can't do this anymore. I have to go to a public school. I need friends. I need people. I have to be around people. So I changed. We went from the day school in Atlantic City to a regular grammar school in Pleasantville, which was about 10 miles away. I went to Pleasantville School, grammar school. I graduated, and I did fine, okay? I graduated all the public school education, and then I needed to go to high school, okay? I went to high school to Vineland, New Jersey, Vineland High, again, about 25 miles from where I lived. So how do you make friends when they're 25 miles away? How do you have any social contact when it's 25 miles away? You know what? You do what has to be done. My dad drove me. Sometimes my friends would come over. Other parents drove. It was okay. It was much, much better than I had in the past. So things were fine. Things were good. I went to high school. I graduated. I went to Drexel University in Philadelphia. I was pre-med, but I met this young man who I married. And the pre-med sort of went down the drain. I became a medical technologist. I did research in hematology. And I worked because that's what you do, right? You get out there and you work. And things were great, and I'm going to make this very short. Met my husband, we got married. John was an engineer. He was an MIT graduate with 3 degrees out of MIT, and down the road decided to go to medical school, okay? So what do? I went back to work. I'm a hematology research person, so I got a job at the clinical lab, and then went into the university hematology research department, and everything was great. He graduated medical school finally after 7 years, and we moved to Clearwater, Florida, Largo, Florida. And today I'm speaking to this wonderful congregation of people. So all I can tell you is he's wonderful. He is so amazing. Now, my husband's wonderful too, but right now, this is it. And I so appreciate the wonderful, warm welcome that I've gotten from everybody here. You're an amazing congregation, amazing people. Having you come to our temple Friday night is going to be fabulous. I spoke to the rabbi about it, and we discussed a number of things. I unfortunately will not be there if everything is okay with my husband. We have a family bar mitzvah in New York. So, can't do it. But the Torah that is in that ark is a Torah that survived the Holocaust. My grandfather was financially pretty comfortable, so he built a synagogue on his property for people that were not able to go to the city to afford the trip to the city. So he built a synagogue, and that Torah was handwritten for that synagogue. And today it stands in Clearwater, Florida. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
that was powerful. My goodness. We're going to need a moment of just pausing, I think, to take in that story. Wow. Thank you for coming here and sharing your story with us. We want to present you with something from the congregation. This is a check. We try and do local benevolences to organizations doing phenomenal work. So we want to present a check on behalf of Faith UCC to the Florida Holocaust Museum in your honor, Tony.
Thank you so much.
It's gratitude for your presence here today.
So my makeup ran already, so there's not much left. Thank you. Thank you. What a generous, wonderful, wonderful gesture. And please know the museum will certainly appreciate it. And I will hand that to them. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Monday? Tomorrow. I'm not wasting any time. I will take a ride. Thank you again for your hospitality and your understanding. Thank you so much.
Okay, who wants to go quickly and sign up for that synagogue visit next week, huh? Bet we stirred some interest today, and of course the Florida Holocaust Museum on the 30th. I hope you can join us for both of those really meaningful experiences as we continue to build bridges. And I hope you'll share Tony's story. Take it home today and say, I heard a heart-wrenching, incredibly difficult, painful, but inspiring story of overcoming just incredible darkness and being able to then go to communities and shed light and love and build bridges of support. So thank you, Tony. You are a friend of us, and you're welcome here anytime you want to come and see this goofy guy up here, tell some bad jokes. And we're thinking of your husband, John. I hope things are okay, and and give him our best. Tell him we miss him. I look forward to meeting him someday down the road. Thank you, Tony.
And she's a great mahjong player.
I don't know how to play mahjong. It looks to me like I don't know. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to play mahjong. I think that's it. Am I? Do I need to come get a lesson? You're very disruptive when you play. All right, my kind of person, Tony. I like that. Disruption's my middle name, so let's just take a moment for our choir sings, and I just close your eyes and just reflect a bit on what you experienced today, and again, let's just be thankful for times like this to come together and build an ever wider table of community together. Let's let our choir move us a little deeper into this time together.
Both of our anthems this morning, the first one, I Believe, and this one, the Inscription of Hope, were both based on the same inspiration. The Holocaust is a stunning reminder of the tragic results of prejudice and hate toward other people. But it is also a reminder that hope held firm will eventually reign victorious over the greatest of odds. The following words were inscribed on the walls of a cellar in Cologne, Germany, where Jews were hiding from the Nazis during World War II. Hope was all they had to hold on to. Hope was their only bridge to a brighter tomorrow.
you. I just want to have a couple of joys and concerns before we have a time of a little more centering together. I'm going to lift up some concerns. Hold Jim Peterson in your hearts and prayers. Jim Peterson took a fall at his home, and he is in rehab for about a month. He's doing okay, but he hurt his knee pretty bad, so they're trying to determine the next course of treatment for Jim. So hold Jim in your hearts and prayers this day. And also continue to hold Elise, Tim Conroy's grandniece, who is making some improvements, which is good news. Keep sending love, though, into the universe for Elise. And Taylor, Rod Esslinger's stepdaughter. Continue to hold Taylor and her family in your hearts and prayers as well. Also, I was handed a note from Bill about Bill's wife Melody's longtime family friend passed away Wednesday unexpectedly while sleeping. So Melody and the girls are there to support her husband and her 3 sons. That's tragic, and Bill, please pass on our love to all of them as well in this time, and a family grieving an incredible loss right now. So we're thinking about them in this day. Also, I want to shift to, it's kind of joy. It's a joy and it's a concern because we're going to miss her. But Michelle Friedman, who's somewhere in here, where's Michelle? There she is going to be heading out. This is probably her last Sunday with us for a couple months. Maybe we'll see her next week, maybe not. But she's going to be heading out on a journey, a spiritual journey to spend time on the El Camino, which she has done before, and it was obviously so meaningful. You're heading back for more experience. There's something. The journey continues in some way, and so we're going to miss you. But we're going to hold you in our hearts while you're on this journey. And let's hold Michelle in the light. But also, if you'd like to follow her on this journey, look for her Facebook page. If you need help finding that, talk to me. And she's going to post every hour. She said on the hour. Talk about spiritual time away, constantly on your phone, posting your updates. No, she'll post as often as she can, as the Spirit moves her. But it sounds like quite a journey. So I can't wait to hear more about it, and await for your return someday, and then the wonderful presentation you're going to give to us when you get back about how your experience was. So have a phenomenal trip. We send you off in love and light, and we can't wait to hear more about it. And follow her on Facebook. If you have any questions on what the El Camino is, talk to Michelle, because she's been there before, and it sounds, those that have walked that and taken that journey, has been really powerful. I know that. So safe travels, our friend. I have another joy here. Oh, you all donated 311 pounds of food to Dunedin Cares last week. That is a joy. Way to go. And finally, Lori Walker's in the house with us today for the first time in several weeks, and she had a birthday on Friday. So, Lori, we wish you a happy, happy birthday. You know, you share a birthday with our own Willard Kriebel, who just turned 51 back there. So, and a happy birthday to anyone with us. A birthday celebration this week or an anniversary celebration. We are delighted to celebrate with you. I wonder if you'll journey with me into a little more intentional time of centering ourselves. Oh, I want to pray a beautiful prayer by great John Philip Newell, a Celtic mystic, to help guide us into the new week ahead. May the angels of light glisten for us this day. May the sparks of God's beauty dance in the eyes of those that we love. May the universe be on fire with presents for us this day. And may the new suns rising grace us with gratitude. Let earth's greenness shine and its waters breathe with spirit. Let heaven's winds stir the soil of our souls, and fresh awakenings rise within us. May the mighty angels of light glisten in all things this day. May they summon us to reverence. May they call us to life. For this day, O Holy One, in all our days, we give thanks for the gift of life, the gift of this life, for the beauty of our earth, for the diversity of creation and the expressions of you that draw us closer together in love with our sisters and brothers that we share this great earth with. For all of that, let us give thanks. the opportunities to build bridges of love and care for Tony, her family, her faith community, and her faith, and the chance to immerse ourselves in her story. Let us give thanks. May our world, oh God, find more common ground and togetherness and less fear and less division. And may our wounded, those that we hold, find more wholeness and less illness and grief and pain. May our world and those who struggle find a grand sense of shalom, peace on earth, peace to all, harmony within and around us. For all those things that we hold in the silence of our hearts, all those people and places and situations and things, for all of these we pray this day in hope. I wonder if you'll join me now in praying a beautiful interpretation of that ancient prayer that Jesus asked us to pray long ago. The words are on the screen. Eternal Spirit, Earth Maker, Pain Bearer, Life Giver, Source of all that is and that shall be, Father and Mother of us all, loving God, in whom earth becomes heaven. The hallowing of your name echo through the universe. The way of your justice be followed by the peoples of the world. Your divine image is seen in all created beings. Your commonwealth of passion, peace, and freedom sustain our hope and drive our desires on earth. With the bread we need for today, feed us. With the hurts we absorb from one another, forgive us. In times of temptation and test, strengthen us. From trials too great to endure, spare us. From the grip of all that is evil, free us. For you reign in the glory of the power that is love, now and forever. Amen. Amen. A couple quick announcements, and then we're going to shift gears, grab some hospitality, and then come for a Q&A. Come back into the sanctuary for a Q&A from with Tony. The Peanut Butter and Jelly Challenge, you've been here. I don't need to say anymore. You're all out there doing your shopping. Keep it up. We're doing great. 311 pounds again last week. Let's keep feeding those shelves, stocking those shelves to feed our hungry sisters and brothers. We have till May 1st, so don't forget those BOGOs. Get on out there and find some peanut butter and some jelly and whatever else moves you. I want to just say thank you again to Tony Rindy for being with us today. Remember, Holocaust Remembrance Day, Yom HaShoah, is Monday night into Tuesday. So light a candle. Light a candle on Tuesday, say a prayer, and let's work. Let's answer that hymn that we opened the service with, Here I Am, Lord, by being people that speak against anti-Semitism with all that we can muster. But Tony, again, one more round of applause. Thank you, Tony. And Barbara mentioned them, but again, April 21st, we're going to visit Temple B'nai Israel. And then Sunday, April 30th, 1 p.m. Are we saying 1 p.m. roughly? We're going to leave here with carpools, get down to the Florida Holocaust Museum in St. Pete. Yep, Barbara?
The 21st, 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Oh, 6 p.m. Okay, so yeah, come at 6 p.m. for the behind-the-scenes tour. And yeah, absolutely. 6 p.m. on the 21st, not 7 p.m. Ignore that. At 1 p.m. And we'll carpool here on the 30th. Anybody that wants to go, but we do need to know, especially if you're going to go to the Holocaust Museum, so we can get you on the list and let them know the numbers we have coming down, and we can organize carpools that day. Yes, Tony?
I just want to tell everyone the way the Florida Holocaust Museum memorializes the 6 million. Tuesday, the museum is opened all day, and names of all the people that we couldn't come up with that died are being mentioned one by one.
Wow. Tony said on Tuesday the Holocaust Museum will be open all day, and they will be reading the names of all that they know. I mean, we're talking 6 million. All that they know of will be read. Those names will be read all day long. I mean, that should be a powerful experience. So if you have a chance on Tuesday, head on down and be a part of that experience. So, but thank you, Tony, for being with us. We are delighted. And I think this is going to be the beginning of more relationship building between us and hopefully turning the tide to get some of these dang other Christian churches and denominations to stop using these texts in ways they weren't supposed to be used. Stop it, people. God's sakes. Well, what a great day. Stick around to hear Tony after the service as well and ask her any questions. I want to say, I know you want to get to the hospitality. Thank you for your incredible generosity. You are the most giving and generous congregation, and I thank you for that. If you're visiting with us and you're like, geez, I love this place. I want to make a love offering here. I got all this money in my pockets for whatever reason. I won't ask. But there are plates. There's plates on the back table. And if you're aligned with us, our friends online, you can just go to our website at faithucc.org. And there are ways to give, very easy. Click on the Give link, look for PayPal, and look for Vanco. And thank you for your incredible generosity. One more thing we're going to do today. We're going to sing our way out of here for peace. We dedicate this peace song today to the work of ending anti-Semitism and for the work that we're doing today in building bridges with our sisters and brothers in faith. Let there be peace on earth, and then go get some hospitality and come on back in here. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with us. Peace, everyone. Love one another. Shalom. Amen.